I choose to say I want to build a company that puts people over profit, and as a result, I'll make more profit. I'll gross more dollars. I'll have happier employees. I'll have more engaged customers, and I'll have vendors who like to do business with me. That's the kind of business I want to run.
Welcome to Minter Dialogue, episode number 323. Today is Sunday, the 14th of April, 2019. And first, a quick shout out and thanks to Kevin at KC1962 for your recent podcast review on iTunes. You'll see I took to heart your suggestion. I'd love it if you all would consider dropping in your ratings too. On to this week's guest. Jeffrey Hayzlett is a primetime TV and radio host, keynote speaker, and author of the best-selling business book, The Hero Factor: How Great Leaders Transform Organizations and Create Winning Cultures. Jeffrey focuses on transformation, leadership, innovation, and change management to drive business growth, having bought and sold over 200 businesses. On Jeffrey's site, and it says it all, he writes, "Warning, low energy, bad attitudes, negative moods are all symptoms of a much bigger problem." In this conversation with Jeffrey, we talk about the journey to becoming a hero company, overcoming some of the constraints and challenges in making a purpose-led company that makes money. Welcome to the Minter Dialogue podcast, where we discuss branding and all things digital. I am Minter Dial, your host, and you'll find the show notes on my eponymous site, minterdial.com. Enjoy the show. Jeffrey Hayzlett, great to have you on the show. Small story, my roommate at university was called a Hayzlett as well, but without the Y in it. So it's a name that's always been close to my heart. So a little shout out to my roommate, Bert Hayzlett. You, now talking to Jeffrey, you are a multiple author, a very well-known speaker, and a man who's not afraid to hide from his convictions. Jeffrey, in your own words, that's mine, how do you describe yourself?
I'm just a speaker, an author, business person, and then a part-time cowboy. I'd like to be a full-time cowboy, but I'm too busy out running around doing business that I just don't get home enough on the ranch, or I get home to play that role. I'd love to play that role, but I'm kind of a boardroom cowboy to some extent. In the business, I've been described that quite frankly that way, because I tend to just roll in, ride in on the horse, and so to take over and start doing the stuff I have to do, because that's what cowboys do. We do the work.
Well, I can imagine. Does a cowboy wear boots?
I do wear boots. I'm wearing them right now.
There you go.
That's all I wear is cowboy boots. I wear jeans and cowboy boots, and usually dress pretty casual. In fact, the other day I had to go somewhere. I had to go buy a pair of pants. Because I just don't wear suits anymore. I came from that world for so long, and now I just go, no, not doing that.
So one of the things I wanted to really focus in on was the Hero Factor. I think it's your last book.
Yep, it is. It's the most recent book, and it's doing really well. The Hero Factor.
All right. So what inspired you to write the Hero Factor?
It started from the fact that we own the Hero Club, and how we got that was by a guy named Rob Ryan, who sold his company back in 1998 for $20.4 billion, and that's with a B. And when he sold that company, he and his wife, Terry, who was also the chief legal officer, set aside a certain percentage of the company for every single employee, making the single number of millionaires ever created in one day. And all these people would come up to Rob and Terry and say, "Mr. Ryan, you don't know me, but I'm the janitor, and you helped me send my kids to college. You're my hero." Or, "You helped me pay for the operation for my mother-in-law. You're my hero." And he never felt like a hero, but he said, "You know what? I'd like to do something where I could help other people do what I just did." So he started teaching a little course and got a little group together, and it grew to about 20, 30 people, and he was helping them, get exits, not as big as his. I mean, that's one of the biggest exits of all time, quite frankly.
Sure.
It wasn't topped until Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016, so it stood for 17 years. And, but he never could get it over about 30 people, because it's a different kind of business. It's a different kind of activity when you bring people together in kind of a mastermind or a peer group. And so he saw what we were doing with the C-Suite Network, and he said, hey, come take this over. And so we took it over. And as a result, we've grown it 10x in the last year. And one of the things we did was we put together a pledge that everybody signs that says that you'll run your business in a hero fashion. And what we found out through the study of all the groups that started to become part of this movement was that they were transforming their organizations and creating really winning cultures that were different than what we see in the books. I think one of the most classic books out there is Good to Great. And we've actually, the New York Times.
Jim Collins.
Yeah, Jim Collins, a great book, and Jim's a great author and a great thought leader. And the New York Times described this book as, the hero factor takes over where good to great leaves off. Because what we find today, and this is across the board, whether you're, across the pond, so to speak, or anywhere in the world, you got 53% of employees aren't engaged. 28% don't even know what your vision is. And when you start to see those kinds of numbers, you need something that's more inspiring. So the hero factor actually helps companies position themselves in such a way they actually gross more dollars, they earn more money, they have happier employees, more engaged customers, and vendors who want to do work with them. So so the hero factor, kicks in and says you can be better than a good company. You could be and there's lots of different kinds of companies. There's good companies, good co's. There's wannabes. There's do-gooders who have high hero values but low operational excellence. There's opcos, which are what I would call great operations but lower on hero values. And then, of course, there's those asshat companies that are just, low on everything, But my most important message of the book is pick a side. Pick a place you want to be. I don't care where it is on that chart, although I'd have a little bit of a problem with you if you were in kind of an asset company. But outside of, but anyone could choose. You can choose to be the kind of company that wants to charge, $50,000 for insulin if that's what you want to do. But you're kind of a jerk kind of company, and we don't need people like that in this world. But that's a different thing. But if you want to be an operational excellence company, focus on that. And you don't want to focus on values, I get that. That's okay. You can just make money. That's all right. But I choose to say I want to build a company that puts people over profit, and as a result, I'll make more profit. I'll gross more dollars. I'll have happier employees. I'll have more engaged customers, and I'll have vendors who like to do business with me. That's the kind of business I want to run. And I see people running business like that all over the world.
So I want to go into one small area first, which is the between the great companies that Collins talks about and heroic companies that you talk about, if you will, if I use the word heroic. What kind of bridges do you see between Collins's vision and yours?
Well, I think Collins' vision's spot on, but I think the difference is they do it with a cause or a value set. And that's the real difference, is the values. What are the values that you espouse the most? And by the way, they can be any set of values. I mean, I celebrate in the book, I celebrate people like Kathy Truitt. I don't know if you know Kathy Truitt, but it runs a little business called Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. Now, he espouses a belief certain about sexuality that I don't, which means he says, same-sex people shouldn't marry. And he's been very public about it. He's a big ultra-right Christian, lives in Georgia. You know what? It's not the kind of thing I would say, but he believes in that. He also says that Chick-fil-A won't open on Sundays. So I can't get that great southern fried chicken sandwich that I like to have with a pickle on it on a Sunday, because he says that's the day for the families. And by the way, there's another company called Michael's that does the same thing. So on Hobby Lobby, you can't go into, I think it's Hobby Lobby or Michael's, I can't remember which one. You can't go into that on a Sunday because they say it's the day of the Lord and you shouldn't do it. Well, but you know what? I wouldn't do business that way, but by gosh, I support him or her 100%. And by the way, corporate public companies, and they have this vow. Now, what I like about that is at least they have a set of values that they live to. By gosh, I praise them. But and by the way, I don't agree with it, but I'll still buy his chicken sandwich. Now, on the other hand, you have companies like let's take Ben and Jerry's. Those guys are the most far left liberals. They've come all the way to the right. I mean, they hug trees, and do things which, and take stands on issues that my conservative, little bit right wing, even though I'm a big Democrat, I kind of look at it and go, oh my God, they're crazy. They're nuts. But you know what? But they make a great ice cream. And by gosh, I support their right to do what they do. They live a set of values that says our companies will operate. Therein lies the difference between, and I'm giving extreme examples, right? But therein lies the difference between, what I would call those great companies. They're saying, in my community, this is what we stand for. This is who I am. This is what our company will be like. And if you want to get with our company, you want to be a part of it, you want to be part of our hero culture, then these are the values that we espouse. And so, it's important for every company to have a stated set of values and then operating principles.
Something I take away from what you've just said is this notion of standing out, not just standing up for your values, but not being afraid to espouse a political cause or something like a hot button type of position. And at the end of the game, whether you, Jeff, like them or not is something that's one thing, but they have obviously spoken to a community that seems to support that, and then that's how they make their living.
Absolutely, and I think that's okay. I mean, in business, as you well know, we've been a little reluctant to speak our mind because it just might cause rifts, right? It's probably even a little bit more British, maybe we shouldn't do those, kind of things. But, and what we're starting to see is it really doesn't make a difference. In fact, most companies would like you. They'll even disagree with you, but they'll like you if you pick a side. So pick a side. And be clear about it, because it's this is life, and why be too short? Why be wishy-washy about it?
Well, because people are fearful that they're going to piss off some customers and they're going to lose some people. That's why they.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? You'll lose more people by not doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So as opposed to taking a stand on an issue or doing something, sure. If I give Starbucks. I write about Starbucks because they've had a couple of very public issues on how they deal with something. With two young black men who walked into a Philadelphia store, and how they were treated. And I gave them credit for that. I took on Google when they fired the tech for about the equal hiring of women or more preferential hiring for women. But at the same time, let's take Starbucks. This is an extreme example here in the U.S. Starbucks has a policy of, like, in some states there's actually what's called an open carry law. So in some states you can actually walk into an establishment with a gun. And do you know that Starbucks, as liberal as they are, supports that issue? Because they say we'll support what the local community say. And so in some states, they actually walk in, they do a march, and they walk down the streets and then like a little parade, and they're carrying open firearms, and then they walk in and have a coffee at Starbucks. It's kind of a symbolic kind of thing. And a lot of people were upset with Starbucks because Starbucks said, it's okay, you can do that, because see, that's what the law says. So I thought that was an interesting thing. On the one hand, here's an organization that's pro gay marriage, pro same sex, pro very liberal things, but on the same side, they would allow that, and you would not think that to be the case, but that's where they took their stand. And I thought that was an interesting take. As a business, you know what? I don't think it's hurt them one bit, has it?
No, and of course it's not a far leap to think Howard Schultz would want to run for president.
That'll be interesting. The Democrats are taking him on. And having been involved in politics for a number of years myself, in the House and Senate, and running some presidential campaigns and some political campaigns in the States, the Democrats are really trying to kill him because he's not your established kind of candidate. So. Indeed.
I listened to him at South by Southwest. So one in Hero Factor, one of the things you says you like to ask people, is it about profit or purpose first? And then you berate both of us if you say one or the other. It's about profit and purpose. There's not one that goes ahead of the other. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I think thank you for the way you stated that, because I think it's important for us to understand there's a balance between the two. There, in the book on page 12, I know it by heart, there's a chart where I actually lay out where you stand as a company based on your values and your operational excellence, your profitability, and the way in which you run your company. And by the way, there's a free assessment on the website, the Hero Factor book.com. If you go there, you can get a free assessment to kind of figure out where you are, and there's some exercises you can do with your company, give to you all for free. But in there, in the lower right-hand corner, are companies that are do-gooders. So let's take a do-gooder. They have high values, meaning they're doing it for the right reasons. They're standing up, taking a cause. They're helping out people. They're doing everything they possibly can, but they make no money. What's the use of that? What's the use of you struggling and only you have great values, but you're ineffective and able to put them forth? So you have to have the profit. Profit's not a bad word. In fact, free enterprise system is what's built most of the great, industries and most of the great countries and most of the great process around this world. And I think profit's not a bad word. And so by having great profits, by making good money in the right kinds of ways, what a fantastic way to be able to support the values that you espouse. And so that's why I say you have to have the balance between the two.
At some level, it makes me think that maybe profit and purpose, you need both, but the how you do it is important too. Maybe that's where the values come through.
Absolutely. I mean, if you do it ruthlessly for a good cause, that doesn't help you much, right? And so I take on, CEO salaries. I take on, when you exit, do you take all the money or do you leave some behind? And do you remember the people that got you there? A lot of different things. I'm about to do a raise for our own C-suite radio, and I'm setting aside a percentage of the company if I ever sell the company for all the hosts on our company, because they helped me build the product. I think that's a value. I think that's something I should do. And my team said, well, you didn't have to do that. And I said, yeah, but don't you think, they contributed to that. So, they're not owners. They didn't invest money, but yet they're great hosts. And, we host their shows on our network. Why wouldn't I help pay back, give them a reward for that if we ever exit?
Cool. So one of the areas that always interests me is within the play on values is this notion of ethics. And I was wondering what your take on how do you mix and put in the salad of values, the ethics component?
Well, I think you have to be ethical to drive great values. So to me, they're side by side. They're different. They're different in what we value versus how we do it. And to me, the ethics is more around the how we do it. And the values are more about why and what we drive.
So, Jeff, what were are the critical ingredients that led you on this journey to embrace the hero factor?
Well, one, I'm surrounded by these heroes every day, these men and women who I see every day in the Hero Club. But beyond the Hero Club, I see them in business all over the place. I see them across the U.S., across North America, across the world. I see businesses who do the right things every day, who take care of their employees, take care of their customers, take care of their vendors, and take care of their environment because it's in their backyard. And they do it without saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. So they're driving great hero cultures, and I see them every single day. I've seen them all my life growing up. And so I thought there's a time in which to say, okay, these are the kinds of things that happen, and why can't we drive all business that way? Why can't we all be like that? Because at the same time, I see bad companies, right? I see companies that don't operate with operational excellence. I see operational excellence companies that are great business investments but don't have high values. That's not right, as well. So I said, why don't we start doing things because it's right and then find the balance? You see these hero companies and communities who take care of the symphony, who take care of making sure that there's enough walkers for the bike-a-thon or the march or take care of the little league teams or the soccer or football teams, for kids. And I just thought, geez, why don't we start recognizing this and understanding this is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of where you want to be. And then what's the way in which you get there? What's the way in which you get there? And then it's a safe place, because it's not easy for some people to, like you and I just talked a moment ago, saying, make a stand. It's scary sometimes, but you know what? It is scary that you'll make the wrong decision and you could lose your whole business, But I don't know, in the States here recently, you saw this extortion error by one of the attorneys, right? Mm-hmm. Who said, I'm going to take $3 billion off your top line just by leaking the story unless you pay me $20 million. And the first thing Nike did was pick up the phone and call the federal prosecutor. I thought that took guts, because if you're looking at $3 billion versus $20 million, and they're going to get embarrassed because they had some employee who probably did something they shouldn't have done because they've had that before, and yet they said, no, we don't operate like that. And by the way, and we won't be extorted. Totally. I just thought I took that. I think Nike should, and Nike's not getting it like they should, in my opinion, because Nike takes some hard hits. I mean, the Vietnamese workers or this or that, and so I think companies try to do the right things whenever they can. Some companies, not all companies, but it was I was cheering Nike when that happened.
So if someone would,
I might have to go out and buy a pair of Nike. But they don't make boots, though. They don't make Nike cowboy boots.
Yeah, put your mouth where your feet are. Something like that. So, in terms of the hero factor, so it's obviously something I really resonate with, this notion of mixing purpose and not being afraid to be profitable. There are surely companies that just shouldn't be trying to do it. I mean, so who because maybe everyone says, "Oh, intellectually, this is the right thing to do." But how would you sort of suggest, put in a box, these are the people, you just stay where you are, don't even think about it?
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that if that's your decision, right? If you want to be an operational excellence company and you want to operate like that, fine, then do that. Don't give money to a charity, right, or don't give money to this and then claim you're a green company. Yeah, don't give me that bullshit. Tell me, be yourself. I'm okay with that. And then give money so that you're less of an ass. Okay, fine. I'm all right with that. But pick a side. So, and there are some companies I would like you to strive to be that, because I believe that by running your company as a hero company, you're the best of the best of the best. That you're the ones on the pedestals. Now, if you can't be there, then be the best at what you're doing. I'm fine with that, and I state that in the book. I talk about picking a side, but realize where you're at, and realize, and don't give me the platitudes that you operate like this, because you don't.
One of the things that's obviously difficult, especially for publicly traded companies, is managing shareholder expectations. Mm-hmm. And you come in as a CEO, you've been running, let's say, an operationally excellent company now, but you drank the Kool-Aid of Ben and Jerry's or whomever, whatever it is. Yep. You now want to persuade the whole company to go for more purpose and be more protective of the environment, the 3 Ps and so on. How do you embark the shareholders? Wall Street is still a pretty hostile environment for that kind of a conversation.
Oh, in a heartbeat. It's not easy. Don't get me wrong, but it can be done. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Autodesk years ago. I did a television show when I was a host of Bloomberg TV, where I went into the boardroom of Autodesk because as they were making the transition from a shrink-wrap software company to a SaaS company, they were trying to move customers and realized they couldn't do it because it takes years. Because Autodesk works with large construction firms, engineering firms, and so forth. And many of those projects are 7 years long or 10 years long when you're building an airport or you're building a bridges or a port. And yet here they said by the next year we're going to go 100% SaaS. Well, they realized that wasn't the case. And so their earnings took a big hit. And the CEO got on a call and said, last quarter's earnings was an unmitigated disaster. He actually said that on the earnings call. I've never heard a CEO tell the truth like that, in such a very, honest and forthright way, transparent way. And so he took a hit, but where he was going in terms of getting to the values of what they were going to stand for was better in the long run. Look at Domino's Pizza in the United States. Domino's Pizzas ran commercials one time that says their pizzas taste like cardboard, that they suck. And I thought, who says that? Why did they advertise that? Well, they found out their customers just didn't believe in the product, and so they spent $10 million to retool the company, retool the recipes, spent $80 million to go out and tell people that they changed the recipes, that they changed the brand promise of the company, which the brand promise was, 30 minutes or it's free. So basically, you used to call them, and then as soon as you hung up the phone, you used to look at your watch, hoping you would get a free crappy pizza. I mean, that's basically what their promise was. They cared more about getting you the box than what was in the box. And they said, no, we're going to change that. We're going to stop that. We're going to scrap that. And we're going to say, we're going to stand for a great pizza. We're going to be a great product. Well, what's the result? Their stock went from 90 cents to over $109. I mean, by telling the truth, by being transparent. It's so to operate with values, there's a payoff. It doesn't mean it's painful. It's like, I'm out of shape. I'm out of shape. So to get in shape, I'm going to have to exercise. It's going to be painful. It's going to hurt, but I'll be better off for it, right?
And you have to bring the shareholders along, though, in the journey, because if their expectations are just profit, just shareholder return, let's say, then they can be very quickly disappointed as soon as they hit you hit a roadblock.
Sure, and they'll short you, and they'll beat you up. They'll sue you. All those things occur.
So, amongst the great examples you have in your book, the one that I picked up and really appreciated was this example of the High Point College.
High Point University, yeah.
High Point University. So, talk us through what you were trying to do in that point, and go ahead.
Yeah, it was just, a great example. Nito Cobain, who's a very good friend of mine, who came to this country years ago with nothing in his pocket and became a speaker, and then bought a business and grew that and created a franchise business, and then became president of a university and raised hundreds of millions of dollars, increased the, when education's going down, everything around him is going up. Because he created a source of excellence around his college with people who care. And I use an example of I was walking by the college and through the college, and one of the VPs, one of the biggest deans, reached down and picked up a piece of paper on the ground. Not his job. He's an academic guy. And I just thought, how impressive was that? And then all the things that they do to prepare students for graduation and their job, they take it very serious. Their job isn't just about getting you a diploma; it's to get you ready for the rest of your life. And very impressive, just impressive university.
Yeah, modeling the behavior. I used to run a company called Redken, based out of New York, and we had an international symposium where 10,000 customers came paying to listen to us talk and exchange, and it was a really great experience. But one of the keys of making that experience work with the guy who was running the US, Pat Parenti, was that we needed to show every single person who came that they had a singular experience that was custom built for them, for all 10,000 people. Anyway, part of our little things we said was if we saw a hairdresser walking down, because they're hairdressers we're dealing with,
right,
who dropped a handkerchief or something, well, Pat or I could pick it up as well as anyone else and say thank you for coming. The same principle of sort of demonstrating the behavior you want to see happen throughout your organization.
Totally. It's a great example. Hero stuff.
Heroic, yeah. So for just last question, for kids that are trying to get onto a career, what kind of advice do you give them in terms of trying to make it?
Well, a lot of people tell you to follow your passion. I think you got to follow your passion with making sure you get the bills paid. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. So you have to have passion with reality.
Yeah, it's like passion and profit.
Yeah. So the two P's, maybe we just hit on something right there. But yep. I think it's important for you to really realize that you can't, while it might be great to be passionate about something, but if you're not making money at it to drive the things that you like to do, then it really doesn't get you. Just like I say in a hero company, it's great to have great hero values, but if you're not making money, then you can't impact the world in the way that you want to do. So you just have to have that balance, and that's what I tell you. Great. But go for it. Swing.
Yeah, swing for the fences. So what's the best way to reach you, Jeff? Track you down and follow you?
Absolutely. You can find me anywhere on social media with Hayzlett, Hayzlett. And you can find me on C-Suite Radio, C-Suite TV, C-Suite Book Club, C-Suite Network, anything with C-Suite in it, you can find us. And would love to have you, link in, follow me on Twitter or Facebook. I respond to everything.
Beautiful. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. Absolutely wonderful to have you. Sparky stuff. And congratulations on the Hero Factor. I'll put all the show notes in the blog post, of course.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having listened to this recording of the Minter Dialogue Show. You'll find the show notes and other blog posts on minterdial.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes to give a rating and review. And to finish, here's a song I wrote with Stephanie Singer, A Convinced Man.
A stranger tucked around me, precipitating the danger. To feel free, trust is the reason. Still, I won't toe the line. I sit here passively, hope for your respect, anticipating the thrill of your intellect. Maybe I tell myself there's no use in me lying. I'm a convinced man, building an urge. I'm a convinced man, to live and die submerged. A convinced man, in the arms of a woman. I'm a convinced man, challenge my fate. I'm a convinced man, competition's innate. A convinced man, in the arms of a woman. Despise revenges and struggle to see. Live for the challenge so life's not incomplete. What's wrong with challenge? I know soon we all die. I like the feel of a stranger tucked around me, precipitating the danger. To feel free, trust in my reason.